Not as much new stuff this week. We got Post Malone, but that'll be in a first reaction video on the channel later this week. So stay tuned for that. I don't think my feelings have changed on it at all. I haven't really listened to it much today.
I listened to it once. I still like the songs I like and didn't like the songs I didn't like.
Cool.
So, yeah.
I mean, I noticed some more mixing issues that I have with it, but that's minor stuff. But
yeah,
we'll have a retrospective or recap with
in
that
about
in
a
it.
month and a
In
half.
about a month, yeah. But yeah, that came out this week. That was kind of the big release, I think. Logic had another song.
Oh, good.
He just keeps pumping.
Is
these
it just
things out.
every week?
Yeah, at this point, I think it's been like the past 4 weeks.
Okay.
Which I think you can do that if you have a 30-song record.
True.
Which I'm still not crazy about, but that comes out June 17th, the whole thing. This song sounds like a Rage Against the Machine Beastie Boys type one, where there's like a radio filter over his voice.
Okay.
Not crazy about it. Still better than a lot of his stuff the past couple of years. So
Yeah, but he knew that was bad.
go Bobby. Yeah, he apparently knew that was bad. I call cap on that. That whole record is him not being able to deal with being made fun of on social media in more of a sad way than in a therapeutic way. It came across as really weird. But now he's at an upswing. You know, this past couple of records been decent. I'm still not like into Logic again. Like I still like am over it, but I want to see him make good music again. So I'm along for the ride. I'm willing to, keep listening.
Okay.
Because I'm not frustrated with this new stuff. So I'm not going to really listen to it, but I'm not frustrated with it. So that's enough for me. But yeah, no feature on this one. Just him. I don't even remember what it's called. I think it's like Bleed It or something.
Yes.
Yeah, Bleed It. Not as good as the last two. I still think Orville is probably the best one out of the singles so far, but not bad. We'll have to see how the entire thing sounds on the 17th. I don't know. I might have to split that up into 2 listening sessions.
Yeah,
and hopefully the record maintains this quality, because 30 songs of like something like Confessions or something would make me want to jump off a bridge in a video game.
In a video game.
In a video game.
Specifying.
On record. Yeah, so we'll see. But that happened. There was another song from the Minions soundtrack came out.
I didn't know there were any
Funky Town
songs
by
from
Saint
them.
Vincent.
Okay.
It sounds like a song from a Minions soundtrack.
Oh no. Is
Yeah.
that a bad thing?
I mean, it's not horrible, but it's not nearly as good as the original.
Wow.
It's weird. There's some weird production choices. It's not like the groove's weird. I think it's not like the basic Funky Town groove. It feels a little off.
How's the Tame Impala song?
The Tame Impala one's pretty good. That's an original song.
I think Diana Ross.
Like 80% of the record's covered. But then
Yes.
Tame Impala one's real, like new song.
Okay.
Pretty good, considering. But yeah, this one sounds like a freaking Minions soundtrack. Not horrible, but nothing I'd ever listen to ever again. It's just like a weird Funky Town cover.
Okay.
But I think
don't know anything about
that whole
Saint
record's
Vincent.
coming out in the next couple months. I think it's in July. I think that comes out.
That when the movie come, I don't know.
I don't know, but I think the record comes out in July. I'm not seeing the movie, but I'll listen to the soundtrack.
The movie comes out July 1st,
Okay.
so it'll probably be around there.
That is a Friday, so they could drop it on July 1st with the movie.
Oh man, why
don't
is
know how that works
Michelle Yeoh's in it? How are you gonna go from Everything Everywhere All at Once to Minions?
The Minions. Go where the money is.
I guess.
She's going to be in both of the best movies this year. That's great.
Yeah.
What if she gets a freaking Oscar for Minions and not for everything?
No. I think Everything's probably gonna sweep this year.
I hope so.
I hope so too.
It better. But yeah. So Minion soundtrack, it'll be an interesting listen. That might be an interesting video, possibly. I think that could be fun. But yeah, that's a thing. Next, Angel Olsen, new record, Big Time. This is the first record I've listened to by her, which is probably a war crime because I know everybody talks about All Mirrors from 2019. It's like one of the best records from that year. Haven't listened to it. If you want to if you want us to listen to it, request it. We'll put it on. It should be pretty good.
Okay.
But Big Time is country-esque. It's country in the terms of like a golden hour country record. And after first listen, I think it is, on par with golden hour for me personally.
Wow.
I think this is really great. It's kind of like a Big Thief record this year, where like there's country elements, but it's not necessarily traditional pop country. It's got some folky elements. It's got some really like airy production and stuff, which is really great. Her voice is fantastic. A lot of these songs are more slower country stuff, which I can get down with. But yeah, off of first listen, I can't really pick out like songs too much. I was just kind of like making food and listening to it, and it was a nice time.
Okay.
But yeah, really enjoyed it. It feels like a good summer album when you're just walking outside or chilling outside or by a campfire or something.
Should I give it a listen?
I think you'd enjoy it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just very easy listening. I need to dig into it more because I'm sure there's more there than just like, oh, it was good to put on the background. Duh. But off first listen, very pretty. Some songs are more country than others, and I don't mind that. I think the songwriting is really great as well. So check it out. I'll have to get into more of her catalog eventually because I know she's often brought up in the indie folk area as one of the best.
I love indie folk.
Yeah. That's everything new this week. I have lost my mind in other records, so we can go there, I guess.
Okay.
I have completely lost it. Swans, I did 2 Swans albums this week. Just because I couldn't really stop myself. I was just going to do the Seer and then wait. But I gave the Glowing Man a listen yesterday for the first time. So I probably won't talk about the Glowing Man as much just because I want to dig into it more. So next week I'll probably give full thoughts on the Glowing Man. But I have the whole trilogy of this last decade done now. So there's that. I feel like I've gotten the formula down, so it's a lot easier for me to kind of get through these things, or as easy as it can be for a dense 2-hour record for all 3 of these. It's just 6 hours of incredibly challenging music. But yeah, I did the Seer first, 2012. This came before To Be Kind. I think this was the first record of their style, or of like the style they did for this trilogy, where it's like more experimental rock, more like hypnotic, trancey, heavy, whatever you want to classify this as. It's less post rock and more just like experimental, like drone. But the Seer, this one was a lot easier to get into. This was a lot more accessible than To Be Kind. I don't know if that's constant throughout the community, if that's what they think, but that's kind of what I thought. Maybe it's because I've had To Be Kind as a precursor. But this is like the album sounds like the album cover. That's the best way to put it. It's a cult of a record.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if you want to know what it sounds like, just look at the freaking wolf with human teeth just peering directly into your soul in a dark black background. Yeah, that's the whole record sounds like this thing is hunting you, which is always a fun experience to go through. But it starts with Lunacy, which is like it literally feels like if there's like a sacrifice scene in a movie, there's like chants and like it's like a ritualistic song. They play more into folk on this. There's a lot more like folk instrumentation, which is really cool. But yeah, it's just like it starts very ominous. It builds into this chant, like ritualistic chant of it. It's really, really, really good. I immediately was like, okay, this is a lot easier to get into. It's not as like To Be Kind expects you to be ready for it, because there's literally no way you can't be ready for it. It's in your face so much. This one leads you in a little bit more. But it kind of like indoctrinates you into this cult, and then goes into the second song, which is 10 minutes. It's built off of like one like guitar thing, and that goes on for the whole track. There's the Swans' signature move for these three is like ingraining a freaking musical riff into your head so much that you forget that it's even happening. That's definitely the case for this one, and then he just starts making like weird noises. It's like it's like someone trying to do a Tom York falsetto but making fun of it at the same time. It's like this weird like ee for like 6 minutes. Very unnerving, but again, this feels like there's something like creeping like ominously around this track. It's not quite there yet, but it's getting closer, whatever it is. Which makes the album cover even scarier, but it also fits the record so well. Like this is one of the best album covers just because like it's so accurate to what you're experiencing. This stuff's like an actual like feature length film into a record. It's just a lot harder to witness what you're getting instead of like a film where things are visually there. You got no visuals for this. You just got to like go there. But yeah, Mother of the World gets pretty intense and pretty unnerving. The Wolf is kind of like this intro where it's you know, there's actual song lyrics and it's very direct, little minute and 35, kind of not too crazy, and then just goes into the madness that is the title track that's 32 minutes long and starts with a freaking like drill of a guitar. I think they use an actual drill like halfway through the song. I mean, it sounds like it, but they kind of like rev up an electric drill over and over again. Yeah, that's a crazy experience. I need to listen to the title track more to really get a grasp on it. I feel like it didn't hit me as much, but it was still just like, what is happening? At that point, you're just so ingrained in the record that you don't even know what's happening anymore. But yeah, the whole thing just kind of is a very unnerving but hypnotic and like trance-like thing where it's like kind of ominous, but at the same time, it's not too overbearing like Soundtracks for the Blind. But I think 93 Ave Blues is the most terrifying song on the record by far, though. I don't know where you have to be to write something like that or just compose something like that, but it's freaky. If you listen to that song and stare at the album cover, then you're fully getting the experience of this record. But then it goes back into more like ritualistic. It's a very like spiritual record in a way, but more of like observing like a weird cult or something than like a typical like gospel or something. It's got this very like cynical look at it, but I don't know. This whole thing is really, really, really fantastic. It's a lot more of a varied record than To Be Kind. To Be Kind knows what it's doing. Every song is like a boss fight, and it's just gonna pound it into you for 2 hours. This one's more of a full experience of a record. But I don't know. Did I give this one? What did I give this one? I feel like I gave it like a 97. Let me check. Yeah, 97 for this one. Could change. I listened to it like 2 or 3 times. I think it's better to just get these out of the way first reaction and then dig deeper into, because the first reaction you're gonna have zero idea what's happening for these. It's literally like you have to just do like a read of like a screenplay or something first, and then once you see it with that in context, it makes more sense. It's like you have to get over the feeling of, okay, what is this record? It's 2 hours. It's this giant thing I have to sit through. But once that happens, then it's easier to get back into it. Yeah, the Seer is fantastic. To Be Kind grew on me a lot in a week. There's something about that record that is just so unspeakably like powerful. I finally got like why Oxygen is like the top Swan song for a lot of people. The energy in that song is the most I've probably ever heard in a song. I've seen some live performances too where it's just absolute insanity. I think the record is like near perfect. What's weird is they don't seem to play like traditional musicians where it's like everything's thought out beforehand. It seems like everybody takes cues. Like everybody has their sections drilled down to the max, but they all move. It's kind of like an orchestra, but instead of the conductor, you have like the front man, and they all follow him. So like whenever he does like in live performances, he'll do like a certain move, or like shift a certain way, and then the rest of the band will know to like go to the next section. So it's all based off of energy,
Hmm.
which I think is an interesting thing because not a lot of people do that,
Yeah.
especially with songs this musically like dense and like thought through. It's kind of unheard of to be like, okay, we're doing incredibly difficult compositions, and there's five of us, but let's just like bubble it down to the most like primal rock music ever, and whenever we seem fit to shift, we shift. And I think that's what makes the record like so incredibly different, and one of the best rock records I've ever heard. But I think I had one listen with Bring the Sun where I really got it, and I think it just changed the entire like way to view the catalog. If you let the music take you, incredible things happen. I think everything just kind of fell into place correctly, because the music is so repetitive that it will drive you insane if you're not here for it. You have to like be in a certain mood where you're like, okay, this is the time period I'm allowing myself for this. Here's the right mindset to be in. I know what I'm getting because I've listened to the record already. Like it's going to be incredibly repetitive. But once everything falls in place and you really get into that song and you really pump the volume on it, it is like the most transcendental, like weird experience you ever have. It's like you enter the flow state while listening to a piece of music, which I didn't know could happen. The flow state is basically like when you focus on something so hard, your brain kind of like can do it without you thinking or like actively
Yeah.
thinking. It's like a trance.
Mhm.
I don't know when it happens the most, but it's happened to me a lot when like gaming and stuff. Like or I'm sure when you're a musician too, it happens a lot. But it's a thing that happens to people. You probably had it happen to you at some point. But that happened
Yes.
during this song, and oh my god, I that's if there's one song that's gonna like make anybody float, it's gonna be like the first like 12 minutes or 14 minutes of Bring the Sun. It's insane, which is weird because it's so simple in its repetition, but the build is so gradual that there's something about it that just is so much above anything else I've listened to. But yeah, if you're in that experience, it's like a mind changing, like life changing experience when something like that happens. And it's like, wow, that just flipped the whole record for me. It's like, okay, I understand it now, and that is possibly the best 12 minutes I've ever heard of anything, ever. But yeah, it's so brutal. It's so loud. It's like engulfs you so much, or you can't really do anything else while it's happening. You're just kind of like in awe of what's happening before you. And I think like there's a trilogy in the long songs of these records that I'll get into. But I think the one that makes it for this one is like there's this chant of background vocals and the lead singer just constantly amping this thing up as it's going. There's like no breaking point to it. Like it's broken through the ceiling and it's just continuing up into space as high as it can. Like the crescendo never reaches its peak. The energy keeps building in like some insanely weird way. But yeah, To Be Kind hit. I'm upgrading my score to 100 from 98. Yeah, I understand it. The record now. It's absolutely insane. I feel like if you have that kind of experience with a piece of art, that you got to bump it up. So I'm like, yep, that's going into 100. I'll make that my 10th 100.
There you go.
So, oh my god, that is something to behold. It's like a milestone for things, I'd say, but it's also incredibly challenging. So it's like very very hard to get into. But I finally cracked the code. I did it. It's been like months, like wanting to get onto Swans, and like I stayed away from it for a while because it was too much for me. Came back to it finally, and it finally clicked. And then like had that one experience with one song, and I was like, "Yep, that's why I took so much time to freaking try to get into it." Because when it clicks, it is something. But that brings me to The Glowing Man. Listened to this yesterday for the first time. Again, 2 hours is the last of the trilogy. 2 hours and 8 songs, I might add.
Oh,
It's
okay.
12 minutes, then 25 minutes, then 14 minutes, then 4 minutes, then 20 minutes, then 5 minutes, then 28 minutes, then 6 minutes. So multiple songs in double digits here.
Huh.
Yeah. This is a lot different. This feels more of like a Godspeed Swans record. Like they play a lot more into like let's the repetition's still obviously there, but they do a lot more of like things that Godspeed did, where they let these kind of pretty passages that are like going with it, they let them breathe a lot more. It's not just To Be Kind, where it's like guitar, bass, drums, another drummer, and a singer. It's more of like, here's a piano, here's some other things. They have like these moon-shaped pool keys that are like very twinkly and pretty. This record is, I feel like they took To Be Kind and it's like, you know what, has a very trance-like quality. They took that in Glowing Man. It's like, that's the whole record. Like, how deep can we invest the listener into like this weird hypnotic like world of it? But yeah, this thing is like, people said this was the most challenging of the three. I don't know if I agree with that, but maybe that's just because I'm so well versed in Godspeed now, where it's like I kind of understand this one already. But yeah, it's not as scary as the Seer, definitely, and it's not as aggressive as To Be Kind. So it's a lot more of a, I think when people categorize it, it's like this: the Seer is hell, To Be Kind is earth, and then Glowing Man is heaven. That's kind of like the trilogy. I don't know if that's a theory or if that's how they actually wanted that to come out like that, but that's a lot what I get. But yeah, this record is very hypnotic, kind of. I don't want to say understated because there's definitely huge builds, but the rhythms on here are really, really great. I think the title track is. Some people say the title track's like the best thing I've ever heard. I'm trying to get there. I can't quite get there yet, but I'm definitely seeing it more every time I listen to it. It's just a 28-minute song, so you have to really sit down and like be ready for it. So it's like once a day. But the thing with like the long songs in every record, it's like the Seer has the title track, To Be Kind has Bring the Sun, and the Glowing Man has the Glowing Man. All those songs came from like one idea of like a session, because the Glowing Man borrows pieces of Bring the Sun. So it all stemmed from one idea and it made 3 different Mondo large songs out of it.
Wow.
But the Glowing Man's premise is like he wanted to write about this like weird like possession that happens when he like gets in the zone when he's performing live, where it's like something comes over him and he's not really like thinking, he's just doing. So it's again like that flow state. He wrote the whole song about it, and it's incredibly like dense and heavy. Like halfway through it, it's like everybody just slams on their instrument as loud as possible. But yeah, it's the same thing where it's like, okay, he definitely writes this with this feeling in mind. That's what the feeling they're going for on these records are. And you have to like really be invested for it to like fully experience it. But yeah, Glowing Man is insane. I still think Bring the Sun's the best song in their catalog so far, but that obviously could change. But Glowing Man's also incredible. I'll talk about it more next week because I want to dig into it more, because I feel like there's a lot of potential in that thing that I'm not quite hearing yet, because it's literally so hard to go through a 2-hour record and stay engaged the whole time. I feel like the weekend is when I really get to like get in there, because I don't have to do work or anything when I'm listening to it. I'm just like, let me get through this thing and truly experience it. But yeah, those are the 3 Swans records, so I'm gonna keep digging into them. But man, that is an insane trilogy. But it's Gemini season, and you know I'm a big Gemini guy. You know, I'm a two-faced idiot. That's me. So when I do something like freaking the Seer and the Glowing Man, I gotta counteract it. So I went to Sigur again. Wanted to check something else out from their catalog. So I listened to their. I don't know what this album's called. Zero. It's just an open parenthesis and a closed parenthesis or bracket. So there's not really a name for it.
Yeah.
But it's a lot more ambient than the one I listened to before. I don't know how to say the name of that one either, but it's the blue one with the baby on it. Everybody knows that one. But this one's more ambient. They did a lot of soundtrack work, but I think this was before this point still. But I've been going to sleep to this album, so I don't remember the last two tracks because I'm always asleep before the last two tracks. But this is like just insanely calming, like the easiest listening music possible. This is again fantastic when you're working or something. It's just very, very calming. Everything seems just right. This one's a lot more ambient and like I get visions a lot more of like nature and stuff than I do in this one. Than the last one. The last one has a lot more of like these heavenly like guitar solos and crap. But this one's also very, very good. So if you ever need background music or anything, just like to make you feel very nice, this one's like going to the spa.
Oh, okay.
It's very pretty. I think that's it that I did. Might have done. Oh, I listened to the entire Fishman's live album because I only listened to the freaking long season for a while.
Oh.
But listen to that whole 2-hour project. That did not seem like 2 hours at all. That like zoomed by. Very good. Very vibey. It's just kind of like jamming out while listening to it. I can't really pick out the songs or anything because I wasn't looking at Spotify at all. Like I couldn't tell when the song switched or anything. It just felt like a live performance. But the whole thing is just really, really groovy. They do a lot of different styles. There's a lot of like reggae stuff on there, but then there's also like Japanese pop type stuff, which is really cool. So very good record there. That's another feel good one.
Okay. I still have to listen to Long Seasons.
Yeah,
I keep meaning to do it, but then I always forget.
it's
So
something.
now I have to listen to Big Time. You said it's like Casey Musgrave.
Yeah, kind of. Casey Musgraves and Big Thief combined.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Long season. That song is still got me. It's fantastic. Which also has like a freaking trance hypnotic quality to it. So kind of similar to Swans, except it's very dreamy instead of hammering guitars into your ears. So a little different.
Yeah.
But that's all I got, I think. Unless I'm forgetting something, which I probably am. But I think we have a Lucid solo record next week, because that would be the 10th, I believe. Yep. And then Logic after that.
That's awesome.
That's really cool.
When is Chant coming out?
I don't know. I feel like it's got to be somewhat soon. Be waiting for that.
It's disappointing me.
Please come out.
I've never listened to anything of his. But I just need Big Day 2.
It's not going to happen.
You
No
don't know.
way.
It could be really bad.
Hearing from the songs I've heard already, it already sounds better. So,
Okay. I'm hoping for a really bad record.
okay.
Knowing nothing about Chance the Rapper.
You have no
listening to
emotional connection to
single
this, so.
song except for Bawling Flossing.
Yeah, I'd be praying on his downfall too. That's the only experience I've had. So
Yeah. So I haven't listened to anything.
epic. Just
Nothing
white noise
new.
all week.
Been listening to Post Malone and Father John Misty. And that's about it. So
Keeping it simple.
keeping it simple. You know, I have this summer class I'm taking, so it's like I don't want to listen to some guy be angry at me for 2 hours. Some cult chanting. That does not sound right. I already
feels
do.
so good.
I listen to some guy yelling at me about Indian history for about 2 hours a day. So
Okay.
I don't need any more.
But did it have a hypnotic groove and a deep, soul-crushing, soul-shattering, shaking guitar lick?
No, it's just the guy talking.
Darn.
Yeah. It's more like spoken word than anything, I suppose.
There's no barking and growling and incoherent screaming.
No, sometimes his ringtone will go off.
That's fun.
But
Nice
it's just
little
like dun, 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 dun. You know the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was a pretty good podcast, I'd say.